Hello, Angel here. Welcome to or back to my channel on this, I promise you, very sunny day, although the sun has just popped behind a cloud at this moment. It's a work-free weekend, hoorah! So I thought, what better way to spend it than to make a video. Now, I saw a really good video from Kristy at Kawai Tarot a little bit earlier on this week, which was hashtag unapologetic tarot, and they were speaking about decks that tap them into their child self, that joyous, playful innocence that we felt as children, that we sometimes forget as adults. And they were kind of speaking about being unapologetic about that. I'm gonna link Kristy's video in the description box, and I'm gonna definitely tell you to watch until the end where they show something. I'm not gonna say what it is, but it was just really made me grin. You'll see when they show it right at the end of the video, you'll know what I'm talking about. So go and watch their video, it was really good. So here we are today. Oh look, here comes the sun, yay! Right there. Anyway, by the way, this is me as a child at Christmas time around my nan's, playing with my new Barbie dolls, which I obviously am most impressed with, as you can see from my face. So there we have it. We're going to jump in with, I think I've got 10 plus 1 deck, which makes it 11 decks, of course. Stop with the rambling, stop with the chatting, and let's show some decks. Let's get this done. Okay, so the first deck we're starting with is Tarot of the Kingdoms. Hello. Excuse my creative director there. So these are the backs. I got this Christmas or birthday last year. I'm going to do this and turn these over. Yeah, and it was kind of the definitely the theme that drew me to this deck. This deck taps me into my much younger self. I would say I was about like 4, 5 or 6 years old, and my mum had like created a dress up shelf for me in our wardrobe. So it was like all of her old kind of like clothes that she used to wear as a young adult herself. So like her and my dad used to go like dancing and stuff. I think my mum grew up in like the 60s, and she had like these white gloves that come up to here, and they were like ruched all the way up. They reminded me like 40s style gloves. They were fantastic. And she even had like some really pretty dresses, and of course because I was like a really young child, those dresses were really long, so they reminded me of like fairy ball gown dresses. Oh, it was fantastic. So I used to pretend, you know, that I was like a fairy or a princess, or you know what you do when you're a child, you know. And so this deck taps me into that, and it kind of reminds me of that time in my life, to be honest. That time when, you know, you could stand in front of the mirror and use a hairbrush to sing and pretend you were like some fantastic singer, and the audience, you know, really enjoyed what you were doing, and you know, you were, I don't know, it just I mean, I'm not talking Beyonce, because obviously Beyonce wasn't around in my time, but I'm thinking more like, you know, I don't know, Tiffany. Madonna, maybe. No, not even Madonna. I was too young at that time to have appreciated Madonna. But it taps me into that playful time in my life when anything was possible, and you know, I could have been anything or anybody, or you know, yeah, especially the whole fairy princess vibe that was really strong around that time. So yes, so the dress up shelf, that was a big hit, and I think I used it quite a few years in a row, to be honest. So that's what this deck taps me into. It taps me into that playful dress up fantasy theme there. So yeah, that was the first deck. We're moving on to the next one. So this is the Tripping Weight Tarot, the Stars edition. This was an Indiegogo deck that I backed. I've edged mine in green. And these, I mean, let me see if I can grab these in the light here. I don't know if you can see these stars on here. No, maybe, possibly. Come on, stars, show yourself, don't be shy. I'm hoping you can see the flash of the stars on the cards. Anyway, they're over the whole of the cards, and they are beautiful. So continue with the whole fantasy theme. I would say that, yeah, this taps me into like my sparkly side. I loved sparkly things as a child. When I spoke about the dress up shelf, My mum also used to wear a lot of costume jewellery when she was obviously younger, and so she had lots of like big necklaces, or how I remember them to be big necklaces with lots of like fake jewels in them, and lovely brooches that she had, and even like really small handbags, like on a little chain that you would like hold over your arm, and they also had like little jewels on them. So that, I think, I mean, I could have been a magpie even from a young age, but I think that's what kind of instigated or pulled forward the magpie in me. Now, I'm still a magpie now. I do really love sparkly stuff. And I think I mentioned that one of my ex-partners, my ex-partner of 7 years, once said to me, you know, when I mentioned about sparkly stuff, I wanted to buy something with sparkles on it or something, I can't remember. And they said to me, "What are you, 5?" And they made me feel really ashamed that I liked, you know, sparkly stuff as an adult. But now when I think back to that, I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like to embrace my 5-year-old, and that's all fine. We're moving on. So the next deck is the Kawai Tarot. I haven't edged mine yet still. Now this deck taps me into like the soft toys I used to have as a child. And I think I've mentioned previously that I don't have any other decks like this in my collection. Like this is really, you know, really cute. And I would say the characters in this deck make me like want to reach in and cuddle them. I don't have any other deck like that really. So this was a bit of a surprise when I purchased this deck into my collection, and I think I saw this deck on Candy's channel and even 3 Girls 1 Deck. So when I really felt drawn to it, I was actually quite surprised. But you know, when I was a child, I used to have quite a few soft toys, and one of them was the Pound Puppy Yuppie. I'm going to see if I can find a picture and pop it in the on the screen for you now. And I even had a dog which I think was called Wrinkles, which was like it was quite a large soft toy, dark brown, beautiful fur. It was all wrinkly in the face, and at the back of the head you could like put your hand into the soft toy and like use the head as a puppet. And I remember that Wrinkles used to have like dark or burnt orange corduroy dungarees with little pockets. It was so cute. Anywho, yeah, so this totally taps me into like my soft toy child memories, I've got to say. I mean, look at this, talk about soft toys. Oh, super cute, super cute. Yeah, I don't tend to use this one so often. I usually use this one as like I usually say like a palette cleanser. Like when I've been doing some really tough, intense work, and I kind of need a bit of a. I need to. What's the word? Release some tension. I'm going to say I tend to go to this deck because, you know, I don't feel that I can be. Not stressed, not that using tarot stresses me out, but you know, sometimes when you're working with like heavy shadow work, you kind of need some downtime away from that, and this deck does that. It's kind of like, oh, I can breathe out and I can land in some cute images with some some characters which remind me of old friends. I used to have a soft toy seal, which I don't remember where I got it from, but anywho, and I also used to have a polar bear soft toy, which I remember leaving at the bank when my mum had she had a what's the word, a meeting with the bank, and I left it on the shelf, and I made my mum run back and get it for me because I'd left it behind. So yeah, that's what this deck totally taps me into. Let's move on to the next one. So the next one, or the next two, I'm going to show you two at the same time because these kind of tap into the same kind of memories for me. This is the Trick or Treat Tarot and the Halloween Tarot. So let's pop these over. I've edged mine in black. This is a tarot deck that I got in last year, and actually this one as well, to be honest, the Halloween Tarot. Okay, so I've mentioned this one recently in another video, and I'm going to say that I'm going to link that video in the description box, but if you haven't seen it, I'm going to explain why these two tap me into my childlike self. Okay, so when I was young, or you know, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that, 10, I used to have Halloween parties every year, and that's why these decks tap me into that energy. And I've mentioned in that video that whenever I got excited as a child, I had something to look forward to, I was sick. And I mean like physically sick. I was on the sofa with a bucket for a good few days before anything exciting was going to happen. Until at the end, my mum decided not to tell me because she knew I would be sick because I was so excited. And so I mentioned in that video that I spoke about this deck that, you know, pretty much every single Halloween party that I had, I was sick a couple of days before because I was so looking forward to it. And there was one Halloween party where I didn't get better, and I begged my mum not to cancel that party. And so my friends turned up, and they played games, and I laid on the sofa and dressed up as a witch, but I just pretty much just watched them because I couldn't do anything because I was so ill. So yeah, it's all very bizarre, but that's just the way it is. So yeah, for that reason, these two decks really remind me of that time in my life, and you know, and of Halloween. Now, this one more than this one, and this one also taps me into a book that I have, or had, and still have actually, as a child. I'll grab that book now and just show you. Okay, so that's this book. That's The Haunted House by Jan Pienkowski, I want to say it's called. This is the original book that I had when I was 2, I believe. My uncle bought it for me. Oh no, when I was 3, sorry. And I use this book so much, but I mean, I looked after everything when I was a child. I was quite a gentle child, as you can see, so everything is still intact, and it's like a pop-up book, so you can open cupboards, and you know, and there's like monsters in there, and you can open the fridge, and this is what my fridge looks like now. No, I'm teasing, it doesn't really. And so yeah, and you just follow these mice throughout this. Whoopsie, sorry. You follow these mice throughout this house, this haunted house. And they're talking to each other. There's some like text right at the bottom here in very big words, because obviously it's you know, it's for very young children. But I'm really impressed that it's actually, you know, survived. I mean, it smells strange. It smells like, you know, an old attic, but that's all good. And you know, you've got the, let me see if I can just, yeah, you've got the crocodile here in the bath. And I mean, considering it's like 41 years old, I don't know, something like that. It's in really good nick. This one not so much, but you know, you kind of everything, and the skeleton's a bit broken and ripped, but you know, you kind of everything. Anyway, so this, the Halloween Tarot reminds me of this little fella that keeps turning up in the book. The little black cat. And that also taps me into this book, and you know, this was a real favourite as a child. So yeah. So I usually bring this book out for Halloween and have it on my Halloween altar. I think this is still available on Amazon. So yeah, that's a childhood treasure. Now, I recently watched a video by Candy from Candy Soul and Soil, and Candy was speaking about some Ladybird books that they had purchased at the charity shop, which totally reminded me of this deck. Which is why I had to get this deck out and show you in this video. This is the Inner Child Cards, a Fairy Tale Tarot. This is a tarot that I use as an oracle deck, not as a tarot deck. But anywho, so this deck, you know, is obviously totally filled with fairy tales. And this really reminds me of those old Ladybird books that I used to have as a child. Now, I'm going to see if I can pop some pictures in. I think I had like the Story of Rumpelstiltskin, the Gingerbread Man, I feel I had. Which other books did I have? Oh, I had quite a few. I think I even had the Three Little Pigs. I had quite a lot of them, and I definitely had The Emperor's New Clothes. That was like a fantastic story. When I saw Candy's video, it just really reminded me of those books, which kind of made me want to get my hands on those books again. Now, I'm going to say that I had 2 older sisters that were 10 and 12 years older than me, so I possibly might have inherited those books from them. But I remember I had like a whole collection, and I would love to get my hands on those books again. I don't live in the same country as I grew up in, or I was born in, and so a lot of my old toys and things like that are still at my mum's house. Yeah. And speaking of toys, these toys here, well, not this one, but these ones, I brought these home for me on my last trip back to England when my mum was poorly. So I visited my mum when she was in hospital, and when she came home, I looked after her at home. And then I went back to my old room and asked my mum if I could take some of my my toys with me, and I have these on my inner child altar. So this is my Care Bear that I had when I was 5, and the A-Team, which I totally forgot. I totally forgot about the A-Team, that I had those, and I found them in this little box, and I was like, oh, the A-Team, oh yeah! And obviously these were the original A-Team, and they smell a bit like, they do smell old, but they are old, you know, they're like, I don't know, 40 years old or something silly. So yeah, so for that reason, this deck taps me into the old Ladybird books that I used to read, and the fairy tales that they used to cover in those stories. So there we go. Let's look at the next deck. So speaking of old toys, leads me on to old games, and games I played a lot with when I was a child. Let's just talk about the tarot first. This is the Strolar Tarot. These are the backs. I've edged mine like a silver colour, and this comes in a tin, which is fantastic because you can take it with you places and it keeps the cards safe, which I love. So I used to have like I don't know if you remember the Operation game. Let me see if I can put a picture in here. It was like of this man on an operating table, and it had batteries in it, and you would be the surgeon, and you would have to like take out the bones of this poor man, and if you hit the metal part of the game, it beeped at you. Hence the reason the game had batteries. Anyway, so this deck reminds me of that. It reminds me of that character from the Operation game. This deck also reminds me of like card games I used to play as a child. The images remind me of like a card game that I used to have, which was called Happy Families. Yeah, and as I said, I don't have many of these kind of decks in my collection. And when I purchased this deck, and even the Kawai Tarot, although I had an inner child altar, I didn't really think about the fact that it's okay as an adult to want to still be playful and want to still find joy in the simple things, and you know, it's okay to want to like I don't want to say check out of being an adult for a little while, but like have some time out from all the responsibility and just enjoy the simple things and the things that light us up, as they did when we were children. And so this tag is really like, obviously I have been doing that recently, but without actually really thinking about the fact that I'm giving myself permission to do that. Does that make sense? I really hope so. So for that reason, this deck totally taps me into that child side of myself, which I love. Look at this, it's so much fun. Let's move on to the next deck. Okay, so we're talking about the Kitty Kahane or Kitty Kahana Tarot. This is the mass market German edition. I purchased this before I realised that the English version was coming back into print. These are the beautiful backs. I haven't edged mine yet. And these are the cards. Now, when I was a child, I used to love drawing and colouring and all of that good stuff, which I still enjoy now, actually, to be honest. And when I was younger, my mum didn't particularly have very much money. And so at Christmas time, and like even birthdays, actually, my mum would buy me, you know, like colouring books and pens and drawing books I could, you know, write and draw in. And she used to bulk out my Christmas presents. Well, obviously not her, but Santa. When Santa came, wink, wink, Santa used to bulk out my Christmas presents with, you know, like things like new crayons, what's the word? New books to draw in, and Santa even bulked out my Christmas presents with like new socks and new underwear, which were wrapped individually, so I had more packages to unwrap. School shirts. I used to wear shirts to school, even like as a junior, so we're talking like 7 to 10. Even that kind of thing was wrapped up for Christmas so that I had more to open, which I loved. I absolutely adored. So I used to come down on Christmas morning, and my presents used to be on the sofa, like in a big stack, and it was like heaven. It was a treasure trove. It was amazing. Anyway, so this deck taps me into that drawing and colouring, which I used to do a lot of when I was a child, because I had so many crayons, and I got new pens at birthday and Christmas, and you know, I got super duper new books which I could write in and draw in. So I've always been that kind of person to be creative and to let the creative juices flow, although I didn't realise that as a child. But you know, it's all fun, it's all good. And we even used to play quite a lot of drawing games. When I was a child, I used to play drawing games with my mum as well. You know, we used to, I don't know if you used to do this, where you would draw the head on a piece of paper and then you would fold it down so the next person couldn't see it. Then you would pass that on this piece of paper onto the next person, and they would draw the body, and they would do the same. They would fold it down so you couldn't see. You'd pass it around to the next person, they would draw the legs, and so on. Did you used to play that? I don't know what it's called, but it was great fun. I used to love it. And then at the end, obviously, you open it up, and you've had like 3 or 4 different people draw with different styles and different themes, and you have these funny people with funny bodies. It's all great. It was so much fun, so much fun. So yeah. Oh, it's funny sometimes, isn't it, where your mind takes you when you're remembering things. Hey ho. Anywho, so that was that one. That was the Kitty Kahana or Kitty Kahane Tarot. And for that reason, I love this deck. Obviously, the colour totally speaks to me. I mean, hello. Moving on to the next deck. So the next deck is the Vivid Journey Tarot. These are the backs. This one is in order. I haven't used this for a long time. But when I was thinking about this prompt, this got me thinking about. I'm gonna start here. When my mum was, I don't know, I was about maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, something like that. My mum got an evening job at a graphic designer's, and she was a cleaner, and because my mum grew up, I grew up in a single family, and I don't know where my sisters were. They were like 10 and 12 years older than me. But anywho, they weren't allowed to look after me, or didn't look after me, and so my mum was allowed to take me to work with her, and so you know, I would help my mum by like holding open the what's it called, the rubbish bag, so that she could tip the rubbish in. And once I'd done my duties, my work, which wasn't work, I just helped my mum quickly, I was allowed to go and you know, do my own thing. And we were in this really big office, graphic designers obviously, so they threw a lot of paper away and things like that. And I used to use the scraps of paper to create journals, which is obviously where my love of junk journaling has come from, I think. And that's what this deck reminds me of, because those journals I used to, I call them journals. They weren't journals. They were a few pieces of paper stapled together. And then at the graphic designer's place, they had like lots of super duper pens and highlighter pens and everything like that. And I used to decorate these stapled journals or pieces of paper together with like these pens, and you know, draw on them and goodness knows what, you know. And it was so much fun. They had like really large guillotines at this place, so I used to like chop all the paper up, and oh, it was great fun. And then they even had like quite a lot of computers and stuff. This was back in the 90s, but they still had computers there, and they had like a storage shelf with all these like keyboards. And so I used to pretend I was a spy, and I would go into this room and be, you know, like writing secret messages to people on these keyboards, which were obviously just in storage. They weren't connected to any kind of computer. It was so much fun. And they had these like really long, massive, like, they looked like shelves with like really large piece of paper, obviously, you know, for the graphic designing. And there were like workbenches. That's what it was like. It was like a workbench. And I remember, this is really embarrassing, but you know, I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever I was. And I used to get up on these benches and stand on these benches and be dancing and, you know, singing and goodness knows what on these benches while my mum was cleaning. It was just a good job that the office was closed and there was nobody there apart from me and my mum. Anyway, so that was a lot of fun, totally a lot of fun. And I'm even going to say that during that time is when, oh wait, let me see if I can back up and make sense of this without rambling. This little fellow, or Ariel from The Little Mermaid, this used to be my favourite film as a child. I used to watch this on repeat, on VHS. I could watch it, rewind it, watch it again, rewind it, watch it again. You get the picture, right? And there was a McDonald's that was quite close by to where my mum used to work at this graphic designers. And they used to do Happy Meals. I don't know if they still do them at McDonald's. And one of the toys, the themes for one of the Happy Meals was The Little Mermaid. I think couldn't remember when The Little Mermaid came out. Anywho, doesn't matter. Anyway, I begged my mum to take me to McDonald's, which, you know, we never usually used to do because obviously it's quite expensive. And because I wanted to buy a Happy Meal to get the toys. And because my mum knew how much I loved The Little Mermaid, we went to McDonald's, I don't know, 4 times in a row or something, to get the different toys. So I got Ariel, I got Ursula, which used to have a big sucker on the back, and I used to stick her onto the bath, obviously, you know, as you do as a child. And I used to have Eric, which came in a little yellow boat. And I had Flounder as well. Flounder was like a little fish, a little, you put him in the bath and you pressed him and he filled up with water. And anyhow, I don't know where those toys are. They're probably still at my mum's. They're probably in the loft somewhere. And I really wanted to hunt Ariel down again because I wanted to put her on my inner child altar. And so I found her on eBay. So she's not actually my original Ariel doll, but she is good enough. She taps me into that energy of when I was a child and how much I love The Little Mermaid. That was a really long story. I do apologise. I'm going to possibly put timestamps in here. But the Vivid Journey Tarot, in any case, reminds me of the time when my mum used to work at the graphic designers, and I had access to all this scrap paper and all these super duper pens and, you know, these fantastic guillotines and this massive office space that I could run around in and, you know, make up stories and live out my greatest, wildest fantasies and pretend to be a spy and type on the keyboards and stuff. And this is also really embarrassing, but even there as a child, they had like big fans because obviously the office space got quite warm. And so I would sit at one of the desks singing into the fan, you know, as you do. Oh, good times, good times. Okay, so the next deck that taps me into being a little bit of an older child, into, you know, becoming kind of a teenager, I would say would be the Pulp Girls Tarot deck. This is it's a mass market deck. I've edged mine in like purple and black, which I've spoken about previously. These are the fronts, and yeah, this deck totally taps me into like my 12, 13-year-old self. This gives me a total 90s vibe. Yeah, and it also taps me into that time, around that time when I first found Take That. If you don't know who Take That is, shame on you. I'm kidding. I'm going to pop a picture in. Yeah, and they kind of came out around the time that I, you know, was hitting this point in my life where, you know, boy bands, you know, appealed to me. And I used to love Mark Owen. I used to fantasize about Mark Owen seeing me, you know, somewhere in the street, not that we'd ever meet in the street, and fall in love with me and whisk me off, you know, and which would be quite bizarre. Anyway, but you know, when you're getting to be a teenager, you kind of have these ideas. Anyway, so this deck totally taps me into that. And speaking of Take That, I was really lucky actually to go to 2 or 3 of their concerts, and I remember again, this is like reminiscent of the Halloween parties. One concert I went to, I think I went to 2 concerts actually. I think I went once with my mum and my sister, and another concert I went to when I was older as an adult, and they did like a new tour. Anyway, that's irrelevant, sorry. And the concert I went to with my mum made the mistake of telling me that we were going to the concert. And it was the same as the Halloween parties. I was sick like 4 days before the concert, and I was really frightened at this time because I was thinking I'm going to be sick. I'm not going to be able to go to the concert. And luckily, I got better about a day or 2 before, and was able to go, and it was amazing. We had really excellent tickets, and I can't think which concert tour it was, but they had like this stage in the middle of the arena which went out over the audience, and like this like podium that they stood on and danced on. And it was at a time when Robbie was still with the band, and it was just like fantastic. I'm talking about Robbie Williams, obviously. If you don't know who Take That is and you don't know who Robbie is, Robbie Williams. Robbie was not my favourite. Mark Owen was my favourite. I loved him. He was my one, and I'm not going to say only love, but he was my first and greatest love. Yeah. So yeah, that's why this deck speaks to me of my older child, very young teenage self. I've got one last deck to show you. Let's take a look at that one. So the last deck for this tag is the Modern Love Tarot. Yeah, I know. Surprise, surprise. These are the gilded edges, which are gold. Now, I was thinking about this, which it didn't really occur to me, but this deck taps me into my Mills and Boon reading, loving 12, 13, 14-year-old self. I know. Why was a 12, 13, 14-year-old reading Mills and Boons? I don't know. But this romantic fiction I was allowed to read, and when I came into like my young older child, young adult years, we went to quite a lot of boot fairs, and so I used to rummage in the book sections of those people's, stalls, and I used to find very, very cheap Mills and Boon books for like, I don't know, 5 and 10p each or whatever they were. And I used to buy them, and I used to read them like a Mills and Boon book a day. It was ridiculous. And I don't know if you've read Mills and Boons, and if they might not be the same as they were back then. But when in hindsight now, and I think back to reading those books, oh my goodness me, how toxic they were. And all these, it was always written from the woman's perspective. And the women in the books were always like, oh, I love him, but I don't know if he loves me. And instead of just going and speaking to this blooming person in the book that they're all falling in love with, they would be like this all umming and ahhing, I don't think they love me, but I really want them to love me. And, it was just ridiculous. It was just ridiculous. Oh, anyway. Yet nowadays I would use those books only for like, heating my home or something. I would never read a Mills and Boon book. But at the time, it was fantastic. It was all lovey-dovey, and, all these women were like, oh, I'm going to marry him, but I don't know if he really wants to marry me. Oh, anyway, it was all very bizarre. And, if you read Mills and Boons, or if you have read a Mills and Boon in the last few years, please let me know. Are they still the same? Do they even do Mills and Boon books anymore? I don't know. Maybe 50 Shades of Grey and those kind of books are taken over, because they are a lot more risque than the Mills and Boons book ever were. Not that I've read it, but, I'm assuming. Anyway, so yes, that was my last deck. What say you? Do you have any decks that tap you into that child self? And do you still maybe take part in activities that you enjoyed that you're doing, or that you used to enjoy doing as a child? Do you still do them now? I would really love to know. Let me know in the comment section. Let me know if you have any of these decks. And also, do I have another question for you? No, I don't think I do I? Let me know. Actually, I do have another question. This is a great card to stuff on. Let me know, what was your favourite toy as a child? I would love to know. Favourite toy or favourite game? Let me know in the comment section. I'd love to know. So yes, thank you for hanging out with me for a little while. Have a lovely morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world. Can you hear my kitty cat? He wants feeding. I've got to go. I've got things to do. I need to give my cat some food. Have a lovely day. Take care.